want to start this Bible study with one challenge for you. You have two people in front of you, and you can only ask one question. You have a true, sincere Christian, and you have another who talks like a Christian, says they're a Christian, but is not truly a Christian. What one question could you ask to identify who is truly the Christian? They'll both tell you they believe in Christ. They'll both tell you that I believe he died for my sins and I believe that I'm a sinner, and they'll say all that. What can one say that the other can't? That's the focus of today's Bible study. I want to turn to Jesus' parable in Matthew chapter 13. And he gives a parable saying the kingdom of God is like a treasure hidden in the field that a man, upon finding, hid again, and in his joy went and sold all that he had and bought that land. So let's look at this together because it relates directly to the question that I gave you. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who on finding one pearl of great value, went and sold all that he had and bought it. So what's the answer to the question? The answer to the question is not so much the question, but the response. Simply, what would you give up for Christ? Now, the Christian will say everything and anything. The non-believer might say everything, but the difference is one thing, and it's right here. In his joy. The Christian will willingly give to God and joyfully knowing that what he is receiving is Christ himself, the treasure that's hidden in that field. But the other one, he goes and he doesn't give from his joy. He gives reluctantly. He gives and doesn't deem it a proportionate transaction. That's the difference. If you're a Christian, truly a Christian, do you live your life like this? Does your life reflect one that is speaking of Christ, talking of Christ, worshiping Christ, praying to Christ? Can you imagine being reluctant to purchase a land that costs you far less than that treasure that's in that land? It's not the value that's the difference. Both see a treasure, but one sees a treasure worthy of the exchange. The other does not. When I talk to a young man in my Bible study who is very focused on women, he just absolutely is desperate for a woman to make his wife. He stopped with sexual sin for many months. He stopped with drugs for many, many months, and because he thinks all these things is going to get him that which he wants, which is that God will grant him a woman if he just does these things. The focus is not on God, it's on the woman. And so what I did was I simply tried to point out by asking, if God doesn't want you to have a woman, he wants you to be single the rest of your life, would you do it? He sat and he thought, and he thought, and he thought. But his answer came back to, I need a woman. That was the next words out of his mouth. I'm not saying that he had to live that way. I'm not saying that you have to give up all of your wealth. I'm not saying that, you know, if you're very wealthy, you must give it all away and all gone and all. That's not what the Bible teaches, but it does teach that you must be willing to give it up if God so requires. If you're a Christian, is this parable illustrative of how you live your life? Is your life this joy that you have in Christ? Because ultimately that treasure is what? It's Christ. It's possessing Christ. It's to have Christ. Yes, it's the kingdom of God. But where there's a kingdom, there's a king, and it's the king that the Christians long for, not so much the kingdom. So does your life as a Christian, does it involve a joy in telling people about Christ? Is it a pleasure to tell others of the King, or is it a reluctancy? Is there a longing, as the psalmist puts it, as the deer pants for flowing streams of water, so my soul pants for God? That should be how our life looks. And I will say, it is a fool who does not give in every single beating of his heart and every breath all that he can for Christ, and just knowing that in having him, you have more than anything that you could ever want or need, and throwing out any sacrifice of yours, any possession, is like throwing out trash. It's just meaningless because you have Christ. We're fools to not live like that. But we're even worse fools to say we live like that. It's not about that destination. It's about the direction. Do you walk in that direction? Do you walk in a way that you do seek God and you desire him, and you know you don't desire him enough, and so you ask him, Lord, can you cause me to desire you more? Do you have a life that it is looking a particular way, that is walking in a particular direction, that is focused on a particular goal? Or is your life more of a compartmentalized place of God in your life? Just a compartment that's just as big as every other compartment in your life, which is your finances, your relationships, your studies, your business, your whatever it is, your health. That's the fool. That is the true fool. And I am not saying by any stretch of the imagination that a Christian is somehow inherently better than a person who does not choose to buy that land, to purchase that land for that treasure. No, there's not a single thing better about Christians in believing on Christ than there is a non-believer. Not a single thing. The only difference is what we see. God grants one a heart that is the heart of stone. He gives a heart of flesh, and he puts his spirit in them, and he causes them to see his glory, to see who he is. And in seeing who he is, it doesn't make sense to do anything else other than to give everything to buy that field. And one has eyes darkened by the world, darkened so that in fact, life's current pleasures are superior than that treasure hidden in the field. There's no two ways to go about it. Their lives are more important than Christ. Just to put it bluntly, that's what it is. And this is something that affects me heavily, because my little brother, he knows so much on theology. He knows so much about the Bible, and he's a very kind-hearted man, very very kind, very empathetic and caring. So it hurts to have to try to point out to him, no, you're actually on a road to hell. Because for him, asking if he would give up his life in his house, his future, in wanting a good, very prosperous life, not necessarily extravagant, but prosperous and good health, if he would be willing, not that he has to, but would he be willing? Would he give it up? And his answer was, it's not a yes or a no. It was, why does it seem like God always wants to take everything that's like good from us and like make everything miserable? It's miserable to one. It's fidelity only so far as it isn't too much of an inconvenience. So let me end by asking you the very same thing, which is the name of this channel, strangely enough. If God asked you for your health, like mine, the depression, sadness is so intense, not even 17 medications that I'm on can suppress the intensity of the sadness. Not being able to work, not being able to go back to school. 11 years of my life I've just spent seeing doctors, and there's no hope so far. And that nothing's working. Nothing has worked. I've tried everything. It only feels like it'll only get worse. And that's my only hope. It's Jesus being worthy, that he is worthy. Whatever you hold dearest to you, if God required it of you, would you be willing? If you are willing to give it up, to buy that land where that treasure is, or are you not willing? Maybe everyone that watches this is a Christian, but you all know non-Christians. When you share the gospel, don't leave out that part, the call of Jesus. Jesus asks for everything, and that is a very small exchange in comparison to what he gives us and who he is. And so don't water down the gospel. Don't make it seem as if it's just a mental assent, a knowledge, just, oh, Jesus died for sins. Cool, I'm a Christian. No, Jesus' call was a lot harder than that, because it tests the genuineness of that claim. Let me know if you guys have had similar situations with family members or with friends or someone at church or whoever that you know that believes themselves to truly be a Christian. How are you trying to get them to see that they are not? I really want to know, because oftentimes I feel like I'm doing this all wrong. Sometimes I have to be blunt, and sometimes I don't want to be, and when I'm not, I think I should be, and when I do, I think I shouldn't have. And so it would really mean a lot to me personally to know what you guys think. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I appreciate it so much if you stuck around this long, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.